What is up, yo? It's your boy Aniki coming at you with the Church of MHA Season 4, Episode 15, My Hero Academia, Chapter 392, Live Reaction. How are y'all doing today? I hope everybody's doing well. It's been a while. We're off next week because I see that we have a chapter in 2 weeks, and I'm trying to decide if I want to do a reread stream or if I want to take that Sunday off. Reason being, obviously, I've been working like 6 days a week for the past 3 months. Is it? Yeah, past 3 months. So any day that I have a stream is a day that I work 6 days a week plus stream. So we'll see if I want to take that Sunday off and just kind of relax and game or something like that. Yeah, which my wife got a new job, which means I might be able to get away with taking away more Saturdays off. We'll see. Part of me wants to likes having the extra money though, so we'll see how that goes. At least then it'll be a choice in that like a thing that I'm like, no, I've got to make sure I get this done, make sure everything's good. Waiting to see if I end up having to stick this baby in this jacket. You already know this is now the baby jacket. Hey, Brenda De La Cruz. Okay, I can't tell Hori to take breaks and not take breaks myself. You got me there. You got me there, pal. But it is not a crime. Look at that baby looking at me. I see you seeing me, little baby. You hear me talking to strangers and you don't know what's going on? I see you. Also, I didn't have it until after the stream yesterday, but this is a lovely Father's Day card I got from my Gene Bean and my wife, and I love it. So I keep it here where all the collectibles go in this nice cabinet. But yeah, what up, Bonzu, Alves? Oh, and we were bouncing back and forth on whether or not I was actually bouncing back and forth on whether or not to do the stream today. So I messaged, hey, what up, Trippy Manga? And I got confirmation this chapter wasn't going to be 10 pages because last week was a little awkward, I'm not gonna lie. And don't do me like that, Coyote. And what's up, Tunisia? So he said that this is a big boy chapter this week, so it's not, because if we get another 10 pager, I'm probably going to run it by somebody first, just because I don't want to do like an hour-long stream on a 10-page chapter where we end up just primarily talking about things like the One Piece live action and a bunch of other stuff. But we got people in here, so I'm gonna hop into the chapter. And yes, Hori does just need to take a break. Let's see. Oh, yes. You don't know. And we see that, okay, yep, she's got Sue in the pile. The first thing about me. Let's see. We see Sue trying to get in there through the cloud with a little thruster. Oh, ooh, wait, Uraraka. Okay, let's see what you got. Oh no, Froppy. After getting hurt back on Okotoku Island, I couldn't evade the mob. Because you've never wanted for anything, because you've always followed their rules, because you were born in a perfectly livable life. Let's see. Oh, we're finally starting to get more of the Toga backstory. And then let's see. She killed that sparrow, sucked its blood, and now she's grinning about it. No, that bird just fell into the yard. Let's get you all reformed, nice and normal. Uh-oh. I like the fact that the people don't have faces in her flashbacks. Because she always talks about people wearing the mask. So in her case, the insidious nature of these people and The darkness of their faces is kind of like a mask for the monsters they are in her eyes. Just a moment. I'll be right there. Yes, she'll be just fine. Yes. Well, this sort of deviant behavior is common in children with powerful quirks. Yes, it happens all the time in modern society. We'll be sure to iron it all out. Ooh, boy. Stop that. What on earth are you doing? Let's see. So it's a flashback where she's at a park, it looks like. We see somebody with like a octopus tail coming out of his back. Let's see. Stop that. What on earth are you doing? Somebody playing with their dog. Himiko's face is scary. You little freak. She sees the couple walking, the guy playing with his dog, and they're all happy. No, there's just no getting through to that girl. Just act normal. And then she's chewing her finger. She's watching all these people move about in society, people playing around, supporting a hero. Himiko, they told me you drank your friend's blood. Nuh-uh, my friend got hurt, so I was just sucking the ouchie. That's not normal. Don't you want to behave properly? Mommy, daddy, I just don't get it. Not at all. Does everyone else just fight the urge to be the way they want to be? Why does nobody else suck blood like me? She just came out wrong. She's rotten to the core. We gave birth to something inhuman. So you pushed it all down, suppressed yourself, and created a mask to become someone else entirely. Ooh, boy. I actually like the fact that we're getting Curious's words to come back because she was rejecting what Curious said, and she's basically confirming that that's what she was trying to do the whole time. Hey, little baby. Uh, let's see. So we got her confirming Curious's words, her crying and begging, which this is kind of one of those cases where you obviously want to discourage her from just running around biting people and sucking the blood out of other random life forms without their consent and all this other stuff. But specifically telling her that she's not a human, etc., and dehumanizing her was definitely going to put her on a path that was going to mess her up pretty bad. Let's see. Oh, okay. Let's see. So we get back here. Uraraka grabs a hold of Toga before she can murk Sue. Uraraka! And then we see as Sue's falling, Jiro's being carried by Kami Woods. I got you, Sue. All right. Watch out. That's not her. Huh? Oh, watch out. That's not her. Huh? And then Sue's about to, don't let my wife see this page. She's already scared of frogs. So this particular shot is not gonna do the thing. It's Toga. All heroes must die. Some of her doubles must have swallowed sprayed drops of blood. Oh, that adds an extra layer to it. She even got me to take on this horde. No, even our full team up wasn't enough. Now that she's diverting and deceiving, we've got no, and then you see, boom, we got no way to stop her. Oh boy. Kill them right now. All must die. Himiko Toga, listen. I once thought that following the rules is what made someone a hero, and that breaking them made you a villain. But you know what, Himiko Toga? Right now, my friend is setting the rules and everything else aside to try and have an honest conversation with you. Killing us all is one thing, beating you is another, but what she's trying is tougher path than any of that. So come on, Ochako's making this effort, and it might be coming later than you hoped. But please listen to what she's saying. We're just built different. You people go on. Oh, you people go on about happy, blessed lives, but I don't get to feel a lick of that. Your rules tell you. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Tell you to pity me, but don't you dare. Say, Toga, don't you want a villain name of your own? Man, okay. Okay. So that happened. That happened towards the end of the chapter. I am going to get the bishops in here, and they better get in here as soon as possible, or so help me God, I will bring. No, I'm kidding. Actually, I'm not kidding. You better get your asses in here. This is the chapter where y'all ass got to be in here. I don't know what you're, man. Don't play with me, y'all. Don't play with me, y'all. Man, don't do me like this. You can't not show up for this chapter because I'm damn near rooting against what everybody wants this chapter, I bet. Almost guaranteed. Let me see. Because make sure Joseph got this look too, because let's see, Thomas, are you in here? Let's see, is my audio just not working?
Oh wait, can you hear me?
There we go. Yep, I can hear you.
Is it safe to come in? You try to
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's good to know. Hello.
Also, Thomas,
Huh?
your fluffy cows made my wife cry.
Oh, I did it. Oops. Sorry, I'll make sure to, have all of the fluffy cows in Ireland give her a needed apology.
Thought they were so adorable. Mr. Andrew coming through with the super chat. I wonder what All Might would have done if he met Kid Toga. Obviously, he would tell her she's a monster. Plus, wonder if Toga's going to improve her quirk. Is this Toga just accepting that she is a villain now and she's done with everyone? Oh boy. All right, so that actually, I do want to kind of. How do you guys think All Might would have handled this Toga thing? Because I think that to a certain degree, Toga is actually a good example of the post All Might mentality, where I think All Might, while he is kind, operated far more in a black and white sense than what the era of villains that they're dealing with calls for, and that was part of the problem and like the conflict of the story. Like I think the old simplified version of villains and heroes was actually bad for what we have now, and that's why we're in this position. Also, if anybody's talking, I cannot tell because I don't like I'm not hearing anyone.
I was considering the question.
Okay.
I didn't hear the question at all.
Okay. And Coyote, I was asking if because somebody mentioned actually let me just wait till Volk's here. Okay, so now that Volk's here, I'll answer the question. I'll repose the question. Which was that somebody mentioned Toga and All Might and how All Might would have handled that. And I think All Might wouldn't have handled it correctly. I think
I thought the same.
I think the whole point of the current era and the conflicts that are existing is because of how black and white people started seeing things as a reflection of like how All Might just kind of showed up, punched, dispersed justice, and then went about his day. And I think that looking at the nuances within people is something that All Might kind of struggled with because he was always keeping people at arm's length anyway. So I don't know if expecting.
I
him to
mean,
be
that was also his problem with Deku. Like he didn't understand why Deku wasn't getting it, so he just kept saying like, "Oh, you'll get it eventually," because he just didn't know how else to teach him.
Yep.
So, and I think that does kind of bleed over to his treatment of people. Like he's a good guy. Like he's a very nice guy. Like he'll always treat you kindly and treat you right, unless you're a villain, which like
I mean,
again, the time he grew up in, the
Yep.
problem with villain oppression and being beaten down and human rights violations in Tartarus, that was not as prominent of an issue as kind of similar to to us in real life, where Superman was the most popular superhero in the world for like 60, 70 years. And then the 90s happened and the news starts to change and more stuff starts to come out. And we as a global population start to grow a little more cynical, a little more wary. And so you enter kind of the 2000s. And then by that point, you have Batman and Spider-Man who started kind of soaring. And those two deal with some pretty heavy street criminal elements. And that really took with people. And so, and I bring that up because I think it is kind of a relation to how art affects real life affects art.
When you
And
look
in
at
MHA, pardon?
oh no, I thought you paused. My bad.
Yeah.
Continue.
And in MHA, things were very simple. And you see this with Alt for One as well. It's like he's a very simple, one-track minded kind of guy because he comes from that kind of era where there were good guys and there were bad guys, and that was it. And there are still good guys and bad guys in the modern era where Deku and his friends operate, but it's also not quite that cut and dry anymore, where you can't say that like, oh, the villains are causing all the problems, because evidently things have failed. Systems have failed people like Toga, like Dabi, like Shigaraki. And so now we're seeing a lot of that just vented back at
No.
the heroes. Like all the suffering they've gone through coming back on the heroes, regardless of whether or not some deserve it or whatever, but because that's what happens when two sides clash. As far as this goes, this chapter, this was a great chapter. I've really liked the potential of the Togo Chaco storyline. I think it was hinting at some cool places where it could go, but I do have to admit there was never quite a chapter like this where like it all came into focus and you're like, oh, okay, this is what you're trying to do. This chapter is just
I'm saving the end in case more people come in.
I'm so next 2 weeks, we gotta wait 2 weeks for Toga's villain name. And she's finally figured one out. Now before Shoto figured out a freaking hero name too.
He's 5 weenies.
5 weenies, of course.
That's actually cruel. I'm gonna be honest.
What would Toga's be then? 7 boobs?
Maybe.
I wanted
okay.
to build off one of your points earlier, Volk. The Superman Spider-Man comment you made specifically, I think is a little perfect. Because one, obviously, the Amazing Spider-Man cartoon? Yeah, Spectacular Spider-Man was from the 2000s era. So the Amazing Spider-Man cartoon comes out in the 90s, right? Horikoshi's born in 85. He's growing up, cutting his teeth off, regular, 1980s Justice League, Super Friends, all that good stuff. But that means between 1990 and 2000, he's basically, between 5 and 15 years old. Amazing Spider-Man comes out when he's like 10 or 11, and he's got like that little more grungy Spider-Man to really start indulging in as he's growing up. But then you also see that like All Might is, as kindly pointed out, written far more like Superman to be like this beacon of like, yeah, for a brighter tomorrow, blah, 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 blah. Whereas Deku was kind of written more like that Peter Parker, that Spider-Man, that every man far more than what you get out of Clark Kent, because with Clark Kent, it's like he's an everyman because he wants to be to fit in, whereas with Peter Parker, it's like, no, this man still has bills and shit and is a bike messenger, depending on, or a photographer or a journalist or whatever to start out with. And don't get me wrong, there are runs of Spider-Man where he does get to have more in his life, which I appreciate those runs because it's nice to see him get to advance in his life.
It's certainly not this current one we're stuck in. I'll tell you that much.
No. People hated Parker Industries, but it wasn't the shit I've been seeing on the timeline. So
Nope. And like Parker
Uh,
Industries as well wasn't even really his creation. That was Otto. So
Yeah.
it's like I didn't mind it leaving in the Spencer run, and Spencer's run, like the overall story of Spencer's run is okay, I think. But my favorite part about it was the Peter MJ interactions because there was a genuine warmth and closeness there that hadn't been there since before One More Day. And that was what I really appreciated seeing. And you fast forward to this arc. Look, this might be a bit of a tangent, but people have been saying like, "Oh, this ruined Spider-Man forever. It's the worst run ever." It's like, look, it's bad, but it's specifically because it's bad that they're just going to sweep it under the rug like they always do. Because here's the thing: typically, comic book runs are designed to be disposable. And I think that's part of what turns some people off. I mean, I'm talking specifically about big two runs, not talking
Yeah.
about indies, which are like one singular story. If you're going to read comics, you're probably going to enjoy indies far more.
Would you say that indies are more like manga, where it's like a single storyline? And
Yep.
okay,
I'd recommend Saga, especially. I really love that series.
I
but
need to
anyways,
finish Saga.
Yeah, but anyway, as far as Spider-Man goes, like it's gonna be fine. It's not like One More Day where that was specifically designed to stick and it has affected every comic book run since. This is disposable. It's nothing. Like you're gonna, it's 2 years of cringe, yes, but eventually it's gonna be gone. You're not gonna remember it.
Yeah, I think that's the real turnoff of comics, besides, the fact that the big two will like reset stuff and whatever else, is that ultimately some shit truly will get tossed aside as filler in a heartbeat if enough people don't like it. And there's good ways and bad ways to handle it. Like I think that Jason Todd being killed by a fan vote that was rigged by a guy who set up an automated system in the 80s, partially to make sure he got murked by the Joker. Well, I like the Red Hood. I like that character a lot, actually.
Yeah.
So that kind of being filler, but not because it's intrinsic to why he does what he does and who he became. Awesome. Sometimes people build amazing things off of it and make characters far better than they were before those weird events. But sometimes you just gotta completely forget about it. Like as much as people love Scott Snyder's Dark Knight Metal run, and I enjoyed it too, there's nothing more funny to me than the fact that that run effectively ends with Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman wearing plot armor.
Yeah.
and I do mean plot armor. It is the metal of possibility. They are wearing an armor made out of possibilities. Like
I think some of that bled into Injustice 2 with the gear system.
Like they straight up are just wearing plot armor. And I think it's funny that the author is like self-aware, because if you like within the first 2 to 3 issues of it, and I'm almost positive you've seen it. You've probably seen a screenshot at some point if you're a regular on the internet and you're in nerdy discourse of Batman riding a dinosaur.
Yeah.
That is from the Dark Knight Metal run. Specifically, they were like, oh, you can't trap Bruce on this island. He'll have already found an escape plan. And it cuts away to him riding a raptor from the dinosaur. Like he stole a raptor and rode it to get away from Hawk Girl. That's also the same run where the Dark Side baby meme was born, where Batman's holding a baby Dark Side like a gun. Yeah. So that run
In
started off
general?
unhinged.
In general, when the author's self-aware, it's always funny because I remember the same writer, he did the Batman Who Laughs series, and it literally just ends with like the Batman Who Laughs is completely folding Batman the entire run until the last comic, and he gets beaten by Batman just hitting him with the tombstone of his parents and saying, "Because I'm Batman," and it just ends there. I just love stuff like that. It's funny.
What up, Seth?
Oh, long time no see.
Seth.
Hey, Seth.
Hey,
Hey,
Wait.
Hmm?
Vigilantes is getting an anime?
oh
Apparently,
right,
yeah.
right. Okay.
Supposedly.
Reportedly, there's nothing official yet, but
Yeah.
now Dobby's pole dances said it, and there was another account who said it.
I mean, it makes sense because My
I'm-
Hero's not going to be here for long, and you can't
Well,
just reboot My Hero
it's-
instantly. So you would have to go Vigilantes next if you want to keep cashing in on My Hero.
It's that, and also they might potentially do it before the final season, depending on what.
That's what I was thinking. Like, especially with like all of Horikoshi's health issues.
Yeah,
With like they're good. Like if they just drop Vigilantes anime like within the next year or so, that gives them more time to work on the season, potentially the final season of.
and I am, and I am genuinely excited about it. Don't get me wrong. If this is true, Vigilantes anime would be cool. However, I did notice
It is
that
not better than the main series. All right, it's not.
Yeah, it's going to be the worst
Well-
season one of any anime.
Yeah, that was what me and a lot of manga readers kind of jumped to first. It's like, oh Jesus, people are gonna say it's better than MHA because here's the thing. A lot of the issues people have with MHA, believe me, they are 5 times worse than Vigilantes.
I'm gonna be honest, at the end of the day, it's just takes. I don't like if people want to say it's better, more power
No,
to them.
no. It's
At
not.
the end
It's
of the
not.
day,
It's not
all-
just. It's not just that, Thomas. It's not just the takes. It's the idea that just because something is popular and then you're automatically presented with the alternative, we're supposed to just say like, oh yeah, you have a point. It's like when you're saying it just because you're presented with an alternative instead of actually assessing something fairly. That's the problem people have. So yeah.
I see people talking about season 7 not being the final season, and I agree. I don't think season 7 should be the final season. I think that'd be way too much content to try to force into one season. I've said it once, I'll say it again. Season 7 should end on Deku arriving at UA, where right when he like gets there, smacks off and went around, and then that fucking shot that Hori dropped where they're both staring at each other with the lightning and all that other stuff, and the UA's floating in the sky like the moon.
Oh,
That's where season 7 needs to end.
right. You mean
If anything, I think it should be like what they're doing with Attack on Titan, where it's just a 2-parter. That way they can just work on the war itself later.
Yeah, get one core.
I've also heard people suggest making the finale a movie, and that depends on a lot of factors because technically chapters have been very short following the Deku versus Shigaraki standoff. So depending on how much we have left and depending on how long the film is, I don't want it to be 90, 100 minutes like most of these. It would have to be at least 2 hours. But again, you can't say anything definitively until we get to that final chapter. And the way, things are pacing out, I genuinely think we don't end before chapter 420. It's just
Yeah, 420. But
Bakugo's birthday too.
so the way I look at it is kind of if we get that season 7 and we wrap like at that point where it's Deku and Shigaraki about to face off, and that's like the final scene of the season. First off, I said this, I think last week, which that one was shorter, so it might have been the week before that. Joseph, you'll be able to tell me because you were there last week. I am not opposed to cliffhanger season finales. They used to be a lot more common on TV. Oh, it used to be really normal for TV shows to end on season cliffhangers, and I think that having
Oh,
Deku and
dude.
Shigaraki facing off would be the peak cliffhanger.
Oh, dude. Look, man, I traveled to Italy when I was like 14, and I caught some episodes of Smallville on the TV when me and my family were staying in Florence. I come home and I just beg my parents, beg for all the seasons on Blu-ray DVD sets, and they got me the first 5 for my birthday, and I bought the other 5 later. I was so into that show, but every season ends on a crazy cliffhanger, and it's just like But fortunately, it was all finished, so I didn't have to suffer.
Spider-Man avec les autres.
What's
après
up,
avec mon
Ponzu?
Non, je regarde avec tout le monde ici. Qu'est-ce que j'ai dit? Je revois tout seul aussi.
idéal.
Is that
That's Ponzu. He's muted now. He's good.
I think he was
We're
still on
good
the
now.
phone. So Bones sometimes does their own endings, but I would like to believe that with an IP such as My Hero, they wouldn't try that shit.
oh no,
Because-
this isn't a FMA situation. No.
because with both FMA and with I believe Bones also did Soul Leader.
Yeah, they did.
Neither of those manga were actually finished when Bones was hitting the end of the series.
Mhm.
Now, does that mean they? And in hindsight, it's easier to say.
Sorry,
this.
guys.
No, you're
It's
not
okay.
going to.
You're fine.
Yeah, my sister just barged in from nowhere, and she started to talk to me. I didn't, and I didn't notice that I wasn't muted or not. So yeah, hello everybody.
Hello.
Like
Hi.
the stream.
Hello.
Bones.
Hey, oh man, this chapter was kind of scary. I can I can tell you that. Allez, the next manga that Horikoshi will make, I think it will be a horror manga because wow, some panels about.
Well, we don't know quite yet. He's expressed interest in horror, but I won't lie. I kind of want to him to do something even different than that, because there are some horror elements already in MHA. I want to see him try his hand at something else.
But
He's gonna
before
write a slice of life romance for the girlies.
Yes,
we talk about that, you were saying
He
something
said-
about
yeah. Last week he had like this author comment where he recommended 2 manga, and they were both romance manga. One was seinen, I think. The other was shoujo. It was Blooming Love and Skip and Loafer, which just wrapped its first season. So, like, I saw that and I started thinking about like all the small romantic interactions you do get in MHA, how fleeting they are. And I started thinking about, you know what, maybe he could pull that off, because I think there's some hidden potential there. Like what I like about Horikoshi as a writer, and it's something that pulls in my head about most of my favorite manga authors, is he really pays attention to characters. He pays attention to how they talk, he pays attention to how they interact. And that for me is part of what sets MHA apart, is that I know I'm going to get these conversations that feel very genuine and from the heart, as opposed to, you know, like I'm reading Air Gear right now, and I'm going to say this. Oh, great is who people think Horikoshi is. He is a dude who cannot write for shit, but god damn it, his art is incredible. And let me tell you, the writing, even in the early part of this series, where I've heard people say that's the good part, his writing even then is pretty painful.
I'm gonna be real. I love Air Gear, but I think Tenjo Tenge is better written, but still.
I'm still enjoying it, but it's definitely trying my patience at some points.
That
I'm
thing,
still, but I'll still stick with it when I'm not obsessed with Final Fantasy 16. Oh my god,
Have you gotten to the Final Fantasy characters in Air Gear?
they're fun. But what? They're Final Fantasy. Wait, what do you mean by that? Are they like cosplayers or are they actually like
I mean, how much do you care about spoilers since you read it for the first time?
okay, you know what? Normally I'd say I don't care, but I actually do care. I want to be surprised by this.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. Anyway, I've been obsessed with Final Fantasy 16 like the past 3 days. And for the first like quarter of the game, I've been liking it. But now the point where I hit last night is the boom, the game really opens up. And now I'm pretty obsessed with it. So buy that game when you have a chance. I really recommend it. Believe me, it is actually a good Final Fantasy, and it is a true Final Fantasy game. Do not let anybody else tell you differently.
Okay. I never played the Final Fantasy saga. I always watched my cousins as a young child playing it, you know, because I would always love the designs and everything, the world, but I never went for this. Right now, I'm
Well-
more a Nintendo guy, so
Well,
at the
this
moment,
one is like hey, what if DMC was way longer? And that's
Okay.
basically what it is. So
Okay.
yeah.
At the moment, that the game that I really want is the Tears of the Kingdom. Right now, I'm really want. I didn't
Oh.
finish Breath of the Wild, so I'm finishing before buying it. So yeah, I'm almost at the end. So.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild, I didn't love like a lot of people did. I thought it was
I don't like
okay.
any system where your weapons break and you can't repair them.
I
You
don't
start off
think
the
it was
game.
really executed to its fullest potential in Breath of the Wild. The mechanics are all there, but for me, that game is a little empty. I wasn't really a huge fan of it. I wasn't too driven to explore too long, and I think the gameplay loop kind of wears itself short after like 20 hours. Tears of the Kingdom, entirely different experience for me. I love that game. It's incredible. It's like it's just layers upon layers upon layers of what you can do, and it lets you do whatever you want, basically, and without breaking the game. It's just like you wanna create. You can do like this ultra refined, like solution to a puzzle, or you can just build a bunch of planks together and cross the bridge and do whatever you want. And
I
it's
saw a
really
video on Twitter where someone made a goddamn TIE fighter.
some people have been making Gundams. People made Beyblade, a Beyblade arena. I'm like,
What?
I'm gonna be real. You said 20 hours, and I was like, 20 hours? That's nothing. That's less time than it. That's about as much or less time that it takes to beat a Kingdom Hearts game if you're watching all the cutscenes.
well, yeah. I mean, Breath of the Wild is open world, so it is like you are spending a lot of time just kind of walking around.
Yes.
But I think the
yes.
difference with Tears is it fills that walking around with so much more stuff. But anyway,
If I can chime in, Anike, to your original question
Yes.
about how would All Might handle Toga, we almost got a certain example of this with Shigaraki, where back in what was it? Was it chapter 94, 96? Where he wanted to find Shigaraki, but Gran Torino, forbade him from doing so.
Yeah.
Whether he would have managed to reach out to Shigaraki, we don't know. But the only person in the series who actually has the chance to do so is Uraraka. And she's currently trying to fight against it. And what happened? She got stabbed in the stomach.
yeah, that's kind of the
Deserved.
conundrum. It's like the thing is, like, I think a lot of villain stands do need to hear this. It's like, yes, a lot of these people do deserve sympathy, but that doesn't mean that they're really going to take that chance to be better. As I guess it's tragic, but you can't
Yeah.
keep blaming the heroes for absolutely everything.
Mhm.
Oh,
Right.
they'll try though.
They'll try.
No,
But-
it's because Ale, we are living in a society. It's easier to I will say not trying to become a better person, just living your flaws. You know what I mean? Like when you know you have your flaws, most of the time you have different type of mindset you can have as a person, saying, okay, I can change anything. I am who I am. You know,
That is kind of
I
Toga's problem, right? Like she
yes.
can't really reconcile that,
Mhm,
you know, that yes, the way she was treated and called inhuman, absolutely terrible, not fair.
mhm.
But that doesn't mean that you're allowed to just live your life without having, like, without really caring about other people.
Well, you can't
And
kill
that's
people with no repercussions. That's crazy.
The-
yeah,
Yeah, no,
like
there's a thing about
Mhm.
there's a thing about it's like it's about every choice that you take has
Consequence.
consequences. And the fact that you don't want to live with consequences, it is something that I see every time in my life right now with a different type of people. You tell them that if they choose that path, they will have consequences, but they don't want to live with it. Then that's the thing. That it's sad to understand that you can, if you really want to do what you want to do, you have to accept also the consequences of your choices. But yeah,
It
it's kind.
comes down to Ponzu that I think especially once you go to, let's say, like murder, for example, like villains, especially when we're making like over exaggerations, once you're free to do whatever you want, and then you're randomly put shackles on and now you're forced to limit everything you do, it feels weird, and it's like part of yourself that you enjoyed was gone. Like Toga enjoys just being able to do whatever when she wants, whenever she wants. She has no problem killing, but it's like Moonfish. If Moonfish wasn't allowed to cannibalize people, I'm sure he would feel a type of way
Yep.
about
That's
that.
an interesting, if cruel comparison to Moon.
Is it
I'm gonna
though? Because both want to chomp.
True,
Wait.
though,
Hmm.
dreams that are not ideal either. Like you need constraints. Freedom is this interesting topic because if, say, I wanted to become a doctor or something, like I wanted to pursue that, I think that is the of my life. I have to restrain myself. I have to do a lot of studying. I can't, go out partying whenever I want. I have to limit myself to what it is I want to be. So, like, you can constrain.
Whoa, am I the one who is like
No,
not
so
No,
you're
it's
hearing?
not
having
the
a
other one.
breakup.
Mhm.
Okay. It's-
We're getting the classic stuff trapped in the trunk of the car.
Something I noticed with this chapter, especially on the topic of like quote unquote villain stands, is that a lot of them push the agenda that the heroes don't bother learning anything about the villains, but you have that with the villains as well. You can't blame Toga, of course, because she is, number one, she's a child. Number two, she's not in the right state of mind. But in this chapter, she tells Uraraka, let me try to find the quote, because you were born into a perfectly livable life. Uraraka, from what we've been shown, she didn't live a good life. She lived in poverty. Maybe it was 100% better than what Toga grew up with, but it wasn't perfect.
I mean, it just comes down to where do you morally draw the line of when people need to stop talking to the villains? Because personally, I've always said this. I don't think Toga deserves to get talked to. Dobby and all the others don't deserve it, in my opinion. But it just comes down to a moral thing. Where do you draw the line? And that'll affect how you view things if you're a villain stan.
That's the thing about. That's really the nice question because it's about giving chances to people. At what time you have to stop? Like like you can see like when you have different kinds of friendships and everything, but you have always the one friend that had some toxic stuff in his life of things that are dangerous. A good example. Ja Morant, basketballer right now. He's dumb, but
well, here,
some
guys,
people.
here's an idea. What if at the end of this fight, Toga says Himiko Toga? What a joke! Takes off her blood-sucking equipment and puts on twice his costume in his honor.
I didn't understand what you said. I didn't understand what you said.
Okay, it's a meme. It's a meme. Like this one dude, like after Suicide Squad, made a tweet about It was after the Peacemaker show or whatever. He made this tweet joking about Peacemaker becoming the new Rick Flag, and it's literally what I just said verbatim. And it's been mean to hell for like a year and a half ever since.
Okay. So on the topic of villainy, this is actually the most exciting for me this chapter. It's something I didn't know if it was dead or not. I thought I was sure Toga the entire time. That was the weird thing. Like, why?
Hold on, Seth, you're too far away now.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Why?
Seth just sounding like a robot, man.
You keep like randomly fading out. It's like you're literally walking away from us. Like
It's
when-
like you're on
when
a
you see
roller
somebody in a
coaster.
cartoon falling down a hole in their
Yeah,
yeah.
it's also a roller coaster. You get
Yes, hold
closer
on,
and you
guys,
fall
guys,
back.
wait. Steph, say it again.
Can you hear me right now? Is the sound
Started to
No.
fade it
No,
out.
you're really far from your mic. Or
God. Okay, hold on.
That's fine. Take your time. But
So
Impossible, what were you going to
Res.
say?
So,
You brought up
yeah.
an example.
Yeah, I was like, we talk about it a lot about the NBA players. Some NBA players come from places that are dangerous, and they grow with some friends. But when you start to play in the NBA, you're a certain franchise type of player. There is some relationship that you should cut yourself from, just to not only to protect yourself for certain situations, to put yourself in better situations in your life, and so you can also relate it to that one friend who is toxic and stuff. Even if you like each other, you know that he's really like you as a person, but sometimes you have to cut some relationship because it's better for yourself. It might also help this person too. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
and that's what I was referring to. And these type of choices, when we're talking about saving people, it's also at what point as a hero, your job is saving people. You have to say, stop it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm referring to. At one point, at the moment that it becomes obnoxious, for me, it's the moment that when you see your choice for not cutting, for keep asking for helping, is start to affect the world around you. Batman and Joker is the best example of it. You know what I mean? Batman say most of the time the no killing rule provoke the situation that Joker keeps killing people, and in one universe you get the injustice whole stuff. You know what I mean? It's at one point you have to say no. I have to stop this. You know, that's really
Yeah.
And Horikoshi love to play with, because the type of guy that would never say no is our main character. You know what I mean? That will always try to save. That's even I will say even All Might will go that way. That's why that's why I forgot the Gran Tenino said directly when he was about thinking to talk to Shigaraki, say no. Don't go there.
Yeah.
Don't go.
Yeah, he said is like, no, you can't, like, you'll be compromised. Like, you cannot, you can't face him. Especially since like All Might had lost his quirk, right? So
like Grunturno says, no matter who his parents are, he's still a dangerous criminal. If you think he's anything less than a villain, no good can come from it. And I feel like the whole Batman's killing rule it bleeds into My Hero perfectly, where our own protagonist, Deku, wants to save Shigaraki. He still wants to reach out to that little boy inside of him, but if that doesn't happen, he'll consider death. Like Gran Turismo said, that is a form of salvation.
Yes.
Yeah, I think with especially with My Hero, if we're gonna go the route of heroes in the future need to start understanding villains, I think it definitely should be limited to how strong a villain is. I'm not gonna lie, because let's use this perfect example. Because I actually talked about this with Thomas. Let's use Ending as an example. Ending was a very suicidal and low-level threat that, if we're talking about understanding, Deku would 100%, if he's going the route of I need to understand villains, try to understand Ending and help him get better. He's a low-level threat. Perfect. Done. You don't need to worry about him. But if we get to threats on the level of All For One, I'm not going to try to Staying all for one. I'm not gonna lie. He didn't hurt.
I agree and disagree with that. Like, I mean,
With
that's,
what?
that's pretty much already been Deku's approach, though, because like he knows Shigaraki is the most dangerous villain. That's why he was hunting him and AFO down so hard, because it was like, I gotta find these dudes
Yeah.
immediately before they cause any more shit.
I think the difference though is if we're talking about a regular hero though, a regular hero is not going to be on the same level of Deku where they can just speed blitz through an entire city in seconds.
I mean, I
Like a normal hero
just-
should
I
not
just
try to
think that,
understand
like-
Shigaraki and the other crew.
I think that just limiting it to like, oh, well, Hawks also kind of employs that ideology as well. So it's like it's there, but also I don't think it's absolutely rock solid. You
I
know,
mean,
it's like-
Hawks didn't do anything wrong perfectly. He did everything perfectly, actually.
We should about the how he handled
Hawks. Here's the thing with Hawks. He was forced to make the wrong choice to save the most lives. That's the real crux. of
I
that.
still disagree with that.
No,
Hawks
no,
realistically,
because
no,
like
because
twice,
Hawks
like twice was helpless though.
realistically could not. No, he was not.
Helpless, though. You're meant to feel sympathy for him. So yes, he's a great danger. Yes, they were forced in that position, but the idea is to avoid that altogether, right?
So what was Hawks realistically supposed to do when Twice was
You're
running out
you're
there? and clubbing?
misunderstanding me. You're misunderstanding me. Hawks absolutely did the only thing he could have.
Yeah,
But
so he did the
When
right
you
thing.
step back from it, it's still the wrong choice. And that's what
Is
war's
it?
like. Yes.
Killing
Wars-
a
wars
mass
wrong
terrorist
choices
who's
all the
gonna
time
kill
because
everyone
you're
is a
forced.
bad choice.
Then
He may have been
No,
a
you're
good person,
you're,
but he's still gonna
you're
do horrible
misconstruing
actions.
what I'm saying.
Am I?
Yes, you are.
Really?
The bad choice. It's okay, Gene.
No, no, no.
It's okay.
Oh,
The bad choice is he kind of like re-traumatized them and all kinds of other stuff. With the friendship that Hawks was building,
Yes.
he could have done more to like, because at the end of the day, Twice is kind of a level 7 susceptible. He's prone to trusting, he's prone to building bonds, and he could have been led to find like a more viable route. And more importantly, Hawks didn't have to like put him in a position where it was get stabbed orally. He could have started off the fight just straight up knocking his ass out.
I
Like
mean,
that's
I-
like the main thing is that he could have like slumped that dude right away. He could have administered a drug to him
I
the day
agree.
of that would have led to him being passed out. Like there's a bunch
Yeah.
of options Hawks
I
could have taken.
agree.
Yeah,
in
he
that
wanted to give
sense.
him a definitive choice because he had constructed that bond, but at the same time, like Hawks is an assassin. Like let's not make any let's not
He's a
let's not
twink.
sugarcoat it. He is a straight up assassin. That's why the Hero Commission picked him up. So he could
Mhm.
do the dirty work that
Yes.
keeps things running.
So we could replace Nagant.
been confirmed.
So
Yeah,
so
yeah,
what
it
I'm
was confirmed.
saying
It was
is not
confirmed.
that what I'm saying is not that Hawks didn't do what he should have. I'm saying that it's a bad choice because he's put in the situation, and systemically, it's a systemic issue that they face, and that's the real problem. They shouldn't be in that scenario in the first place, because if you need a fucking assassin to keep everything running smoothly, something is very, very wrong.
Sometimes you need a killer for them. I would personally accept a killer in my society. I would accept a level threat of Homelander to kill all these abominations like Twice. Personally.
Literally. Abomination. Full straight out abominations. Damn. Um,
I'm like
Homelander is innocent. I saw his YouTube video.
Yeah, well,
Wait, welcome back, Seth.
can you hear us?
Can you
Or
hear me?
can we hear him?
Oh, I try to
Is it-
speak.
Oh yes, I just wanted to confirm if I am hearable. I just restarted the app. Unfortunately, there's like nothing else I can do with my phone. I am just
You're a
Oh.
little louder. You're louder, but you are roboting a little bit, but that's okay.
Massive improvement.
Yeah,
Yes, massive.
we can deal with robot better than we can deal with you sounding like a whisper in the wind.
Like a turd in the wind.
So here's the thing. I think that not killing twice, and there's a bunch of angles that you can take here, right? Like the moralistic thing is that Twice didn't deserve to die from the standpoint of he is, of all the villains, he is kind of the best example of society, like straight up just failing someone.
Yeah.
Because so much of the stuff at the beginning of his life was out of his hands, and nobody just was like, dude, he's a kid. Like, let's look out for him. Instead, it was that guy got out in front of you, but because this dude's a rich person, you're going to be punished for his reckless behavior. You're going to lose your job. You're not going to be hireable. You're considered a criminal. So everybody's going to decide that they don't need to hire you, or they shouldn't hire you because you're dirty or a criminal scum. You're an orphan. You have no extended family. So you're just stuck alone and homeless. And once somebody becomes homeless, I'm going to be real with you. There's a lot of crimes that they get to kind of do, and it's just like, well, he's homeless. Should you just sit there and die in a gutter? Like, is that what you would consider preferable? If your society isn't willing to look out for the homeless, you don't get to complain about the homeless like stealing and stuff like that, really, because you're not taking steps to make sure people aren't in that position. But the military, like if you are planning a government, if you are structuring a society, if you are in charge of maintaining order, you have to kill twice. You cannot let twice live.
Yeah.
If you let twice live, especially because of the way Hawks set it up, because I think Hawks was trying to get him to, because Hawks wanted, the reason he didn't put Twice to sleep, which would have been the easiest fix. Like, okay, Hawks wanted to have plausible information so that they would give Twice a fresh start. That's what he was after. That's why he goes out of his way to record the conversation and say, hey, will you agree to start over even if you serve time? Because Hawks wanted him on the record to say, I will step down and I'll do this. That's why he looks so sad when Twice starts saying, like, no, I'm gonna whoop your ass. That's it. But because if Hawks poisons him and like just makes him be unconscious and like kidnaps him or whatever and make sure he's not there that day, then Twice doesn't get plausible deniability. Because at that point, the only reason he didn't commit the crime is because he was taken out of commission. But so that sucks, right? Because like Hawks so the real problem is that Hawks was in a position to save Twice without actually having the ability to save Twice.
I think Hawks's biggest, I want to say L because that's not the right term to use, but I'll use it anyway. His biggest L with Twice was not understanding how Twice feels about the league. Like it or not, Twice was never going to go against them, but what Hawks wanted was something Twice needed. He needed rehabilitation. He needed to be in a situation where he can be who he is, a good person. It just sucks that he tried to do that in a war. Like, his friends needed him. Why would I go against them?
Yeah.
He wanted to be a hero for once. That's how he saw
And
it.
it's like, and you got to think of, how Hawks grew up. It's like his father was a piece of shit. His mom wasn't much better. Is basically the only people who did real parenting to him were guys in suits. Guys in suits who trained him day in, day out, specifically so he could be kind of like take out the trash, and so it's like he also kind of didn't know what else to do.
But he found the thing that he found a purpose in it. When you met the character, he says, I just want heroes to have a day of rest.
What he says is to that effect, basically, yeah. And the whole thing with Twice changed him, right? It's like, and you see he's still fully intent on killing whoever he has to keep the peace, but like he doesn't want that to be the case anymore.
Regarding I'm actually gonna head out pretty soon, so if it's okay, I wanted to get
Yep,
some.
go for it.
Yeah, I gotta go in 5 minutes, so I'll go after him.
Okay, thank you. All right. So regarding this chapter, I do like that it comes back to Twice versus Hawks, because really that's kind of the core of the hero villain conflict, is trying to bridge that huge gap in understanding. Because everyone wants to live their own life the way they want to a degree, and obviously society has a lot to say about that. And the way society says you should live your life, well, it's not going to work for everyone. It's almost an inevitable problem, but it's still a problem nonetheless. And I think in regards to the conflict with Toga and Uraraka, what I like about how this is set up is that with Uraraka, she represents the next generation, the better than All Might generation, where Hawks and Twice represent, well, just the step before that, the previous generation. Have the limits of society pretty clearly defined there. And I think people are more upset at the water being wet as opposed to what the story is trying to build up towards. Because you can easily see where Hawks and Twice come from. Hawks has to prevent massive loss of life, and Twice is willing to do that if it means he can build a society where his friends have an actual shot at being happy. So you see where both of these people come from, and I think that people just come down a bit too hard on everyone in the story when it's part of a larger umbrella set. Hawks had to kill Twice because Horikoshi said so at the end of the day, right? Like I mean, we can make up excuses for it, or we can say Hawks should have done this or that instead. But the reason he doesn't is because Horikoshi has a message to say. This is the limit of current society. He wants to help Twice, but not in a way that Twice is receptive to. I know people attribute that to Hawks, and that's like, it's fair. He's the character killed, right? But still, this is a story and an ongoing arc, and I think more of it we should let play out, because this is becoming really compelling as the heat up between Uraraka and Toga. It's the same story is replaying again, and I'm looking forward to exactly how Horikoshi resolves this, because you can still argue in favor of Hawks or even in favor of Twice in that situation, even now. Like I love just the grayness of this conflict, but I'm very much looking forward to Uraraka is able to rise up above that and continue to build the bridge of understanding, because that's where everything starts. It's getting to know each other and properly being able to resolve things without resorting to violence. Unfortunately, that a shonen manga is a problem generally. This is a shonen manga, we're gonna fight, but it's what it is. Anyway, sorry, I felt like I had better stuff to say. But
It's all
Well,
good.
you did great, Steph. I appreciate the commentary.
We're
especially
spinning.
given the circumstances you've been kind of stuck in audio wise.
I don't know.
Oh.
And back to it he goes.
Yeah, make sure you send me your thread if you do one today, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, bye.
Like,
Bye bye.
See you, Seth.
Stay safe.
what were you gonna say, Coyote? Because I know you said you had to leave soon too.
Yeah. I'm better say this now so no one comes after me. About the Twice stuff, I was messing. Don't come after me for the Twice stuff. I was messing with people. But the Toga stuff, I'm not. Fuck Toga. All right. Oh, woo! I can't believe we had a Toga focus chapter. This was having my blood boiling the entire time. Oh my god. I hate Toga. Oh my god. Horikoshi gave me the okay, I'll be real. I think her origin story works in the sense that she had bad parents, society didn't teach her right, and the court people were dumb. I personally don't like that it was so quick and back to back. If I'm being honest, I would rather have her entire origin be split into 2 chapters. It doesn't even have to be that, but rather like 12 pages instead of 3 back to back. I don't know, that's just a personal thing where I thought it was going too fast to hammer into the fact that she was messed up.
So like, just so I can give like an idea of it, like you would have liked for part of the story, like a bit more breathing room on the story where we
Yeah.
zero in on like maybe a couple incidents of her dealing with her parents, which we've gotten throughout the series, but like a back-to-back section here where it's like, this is in school, this is at home, this is this with her parents, and then spend a little bit more time in the court counseling room.
Because I think if we definitely go with the idea where it's more space, I definitely think I wouldn't like at least a panel or two where she was, instead of saying, "Oh, you sucked the blood," I'd rather see like an innocent interaction of her saying, "Oh, well, let me just kiss this for you," and then we cut to the next one is the parents yelling at her. If we're gonna, because her parents, in my opinion, are the worst parents we've ever seen in the series, and that's like below Hawks's parents, in my opinion. So if we're gonna really go with it, I'd really wish we would combine it with her viewing stuff as good, and we would see it. Because we already saw with the bird, that was good, that's fine. But I do want to see a bit with the Reformation, because what didn't really work about that, if Reformation has been working, quote unquote, for so long, I kind of want to see how they treated that. But maybe we'll get that, so I can't really comment on that.
I do sort of get where you're coming from, Coyote, but it's like at the same time, when you say that, you just gotta like, then you just start picking apart the whole series, because that's just how Horikoshi does his stuff.
Listen, this is coming
Like,
from pure.
he
Toga hater.
he
There's
sprinkles
no other
little
reason.
things here. He sprinkles little things here and there, and he wants you to pick up on that. I think other series definitely do those chunks like back to back to back, so you all get it at once. That's not really Horikoshi style. What he does is like he'll sprinkle little things here and there, and then he comes back and ties them all together. And for me, speaking personally, I really like that style. Maybe
Yeah, it's
some
just different
some
styles
extra,
for people.
maybe some extra interactions, maybe some extra scenes of Toga like being more innocent could help, but it's like at the same time that also reminds me of like I'm trying to think of a specific example, but people specifically want more of something, right? And I don't think, like speaking personally, I don't think you always need to get that, because you get the idea, and after a certain point, it would just feel kind of redundant.
I don't know, because it comes down to, especially for Toga, for me, if we're gonna get her origin this late, I prefer it wouldn't be so quick
This
fire.
late? We got our origin
This
in
more
MPA.
detailed into her origin.
We got a decent bit of her origin already in NBA. Like you got the
Her
idea.
origin in the other was that she was repressing herself and her parents blamed her. That's all we realistically do. For a majority of the thing, people in the server were always like, well, maybe she got quirk therapy. Her parents maybe weren't trying to understand her. There's a lot of maybes. And this kind of filled in with definitives.
I mean, it was all
Yeah, we
strongly-
got the answers here.
Yes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I
mean, it was
kinda-
strongly implied though, so I think it's just following up on what we kind of already were supposed to know. So
I don't know, because I don't think you could have made the point about quirk therapy. Oh, maybe she went there. You couldn't really say that at that
I
time.
mean, literally, like she faces off with like the report with the news lady,
and even
right?
then, you couldn't even say her parents back then were really
I mean, it's-
crazy.
I mean,
back
that
then.
was the vibe I always got, that she was in quirk therapy. Like honestly, I don't. People were confused about that.
A lot of the time, especially for a long while in church VCs I've been in, especially with the boys, is we've always debated where Toga, we weren't sure if she went to quirk therapy. We weren't sure on how her parents reacted, because all that time we knew was she stabbed a boy in the neck and drank his blood.
You get that in her chapter though in MVA. Like it's all pretty much implied.
Yes, but we didn't know they were crazy. Like, let me finish. We didn't know they were crazy like this. All we knew was their reaction to a boy getting stabbed in the neck and drinking their blood. Any parent realistically would say that's kind of crazy. But now that we know in this chapter, her parents were just batshit crazy from the start, where they're like, oh, we gave birth to something inhumane when she hasn't done anything realistically bad, is more context to a point where her parents are just batshit insane. Now we know that.
That was just kind of always my assumption, because like the way we've seen villains treated as like just absolutely horrible. So it's like, and the comments you got from her was like, you see the panels in MVA when she's like a little girl, and they say those same comments to her. It's like the implication is like I pretty much took that as like, yeah, she was always treated poorly from the start, and she just hit her breaking point. So I genuinely,
Yes,
that's how I've
I-
always taken that, man. So
Yes,
it's
I
like I
can't
didn't
believe
know
you've
this
done
was
this.
a
We can
thing.
see
I
this.
didn't know this was a point of confusion for some people. I was like,
It just
pretty
comes
much-
down to, especially from Twitter, you're gonna see a lot of things you follow and ideas will tend to stay the same. I don't mostly go in my hero Twitter. I stay within the church and I get a general feel of the church's other people's feeling that are not in the call. And that's what most of them were saying for like months and even before this chapter
I man,
during
like
the war.
I guess I get that, but it's like I just
So-
that's always been what I took from it. So it's like this chapter like didn't surprise me whatsoever.
My personal stance is that obviously different people notice some details more than others. Me, I kind of took away that based off what Curious was saying, looking into her, because like it seemed to me that Curious had access to a file that confirmed that she was in court counseling. So that's how I always took it. Like I always looked at Toga as the example of court counseling failing, because that to me that dialogue doesn't work unless there's that. But I also specifically look at Horikoshi's writing style as a lot of that stuff being intentional. So to me, it's supposed to be implied, because I look at the overarching like societal narrative that Horikoshi is always trying to build with the villains and what those implications could be. So like you get the backbone of what aspects of hero society is being critiqued in NBA with each character. So with Spinner, you get the introduction, like the hard confirmation of discrimination. We don't focus on Dabi because we've already been given that B plot through the Todoroki family. He's just a continuation of an already existing subplot. We get Shigaraki's, which is ultimately the same, similar to Dabi's, in that it's parental abuse via obsession with, whether it's through the rejection or acceptance of hero society and people's obsession with it. So we get the abuse from rejection and the abuse from acceptance, over acceptance and over rejection, like these two different pedestals that hero society is placed on, and how it leads to parents mistreating their kids whether they want to be a hero or not. So with me, Toga was always supposed to be the court counseling or like the Reformation commentary. And obviously I haven't been in a lot of church VCs and Discord for the past year because I've been a lot busier. But so for me, when we got to the point where, especially once we got Toga, the scene at Toga's family house where she's talking about like, oh, we knew that child was cursed, blah, blah, blah. It was like, no, they spent her entire childhood hating her and wanting her to basically be something she wasn't or was capable of being. That was what I took away from all that stuff, because it was just kind of like they tried counseling. And I do think that her parents are inherently flawed parents. I don't think her parents are good parents. I think they are, I agree with Coyote. I think they are some of the worst parents we've gotten in the story. I think they spent way too much time being hateful in how they approached and spoke to their daughter, because I can't imagine being so upset with my daughter that I like speak to her the way that they speak to their kid. I would want her to understand that something is wrong, but the idea of just constantly talking about her like that and behind her back to her face, and ultimately not explaining to her, because instead of them saying, you have a quirk that is putting you in a position that is irregular, so this is how you need to deal with it, they basically just went be normal, be normal, be normal, be normal, and didn't give her any context. And Toga herself is piecing together that her quirk is part of what's making her feel different, but they're not willing to engage with her about this conversation.
And to make it even worse, it's like not even engaging, but when they like say the things, they're throwing like full tantrums and they're like on the ground, hands on their heads. Oh my God. It's like, overly over the top for them. as well.
Okay, so going back to the chapter where she's talking to Curious, so like a little ways into it, she brings up quirk counseling, where they attempt to hammer out any bumps in your understanding of the world and program you to fit neatly into society's little boxes. It's a far from perfect process, of course. The counseling ends up emphasizing the inherent differences among us all, and that's one bug they've yet to work out of the programming. And then they go into this little flashback of Toga.
Like,
But the
I
true
wouldn't
tragedy
know that. I
here
have
came
not
from
read
a
my
perfectly
villain
ordinary
books.
feeling, admiration. Blood and admiration. Those two elements combined into something that society was never going to accept. So you pushed it all down, suppressed yourself, and created a mask. So Coyote, he pretty much blatantly told
Listen,
you
I have
from the
not
start.
read my
He
villain.
told you. He told
I don't
you.
give a fuck, Volk.
Really?
Specifically, if you tell me shit, I don't fuck with you.
Whoa.
God damn.
Whoa,
Fuck.
Wait, whoa.
whoa,
I was reading
whoa.
something that was sent somewhere else, and all of a sudden I hear I don't give a fuck. Well, what?
He said he doesn't care when people tell him stuff.
No, I've said I don't give a fuck about you. East made me delete that message a long time ago. I said multiple times, I don't fucking like you.
Really?
All right, I know about that.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Thomas knows. Thomas,
guys.
did I not say that and I had it deleted?
Coyote.
Let's chill
Things
out.
that are personal, keep it away.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting that.
Okay, but still.
Let's
All
reel
right.
that in.
Chill out, man. Chill out. I can. You might not like, but you're let's be professional. We say like this. Chill out.
I'm willing to talk about it with anyone else, but not Volk.
Okay.
Okay.
All right,
All right.
we got that established. I've popped off harder on stream, so I get it. Granted, when I popped off harder on stream, it was after like a year plus of somebody just being an ass.
Mhm.
But let's keep it cool. I don't even have that stream visible anymore,
Yeah.
just to be nice, because that person is still crying about it almost 2 years later. So, I try to be nice to people about that stuff.
All right.
But at the end of the day, we're here to talk about manga, talk about story, and occasionally talk about random ass other nerd shit. We gotta pop off like that. Let's stay well.
Just to bring back what I mentioned last week, Aniki, what do you think Toga's parents' quirks are that led to Toga's drink blood the transformation? Because I don't know, it's like
At this point, I think she has to be a deviant. At first, I thought that maybe they were going to have something similar like Vlad King or something like that. But ultimately, at this point, I think she has to be completely
like a quirk mutation, like Gary.
Yeah. Because if there's one thing society in My Hero has not been prepared for throughout the entirety, it's people like, as much as people pretend that they're used to quirks and that they're able to handle quirk society and all that other good stuff, they're not. And it's one of those things where it's kind of like oh yeah, I can handle, I'm not racist. Like, they grow up in some super small town and they come in like, oh, I'm not racist. And then you have them in an area where it's like mostly Black people and they're like, oh, I'm super uncomfortable. Or they're always talking about how this part of town is extra bad, but I'm not racist. I just think all the town areas where there's nothing but Black people are extra spooky and stuff like that, where it kind of feels like a lot of people exist in that state with quirks. Oh, I like quirks. Up until, a quirk that I don't understand pops up. It's similar to, or even better, I like black people just only when I see them looking like high school preps. Once I watch a hip hop video, I get scared. Uh, like you'd be amazed. Like that's it's called like one good one complex, where they're
Yeah.
like, oh, like they're really good in this
No,
context, and then like all of a sudden they're like, oh, well,
the thing,
like rap music and blah 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 blah
but
blah.
the thing about it, the thing about it is like I met people like this. That's the thing. I like.
Yep.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like these sentences that you just said. I just had some flashbacks when I was in high school, and well, even last year I was in the car. We were listening, so we were talking about music wise, and in 1 second, that guy went. Literally, everybody in the car looked at him like, what? I was the only black guy in the car, but imagine everybody reacted the same way as I. Like, we were talking about drill, and he was talking about all the stuff. And I was just talking about the music-wise, how they do the patterns and everything. I was just talking about musically, and he went in a full tangent. Like, everybody looked at him like, man, it's just not that deep, man. So it's not that deep. Chill out. So yeah. Oh man, but yeah. Where we were talking, what the chapter? What were we talking about even? I'm lost right now.
But yeah, no, what I was talking about is how people act like they're more prepared for quirks and different quirks than they actually are. And that's all it really comes down to is like, because when you think about it, right, especially like the thing that makes it different than race, obviously, is like, unlike with race, where if you and your partner of the same race get together and make a baby, the odds of that baby being different is way like astronomically pretty much non-existent. Like baby should look like some combination of you two or your grandparents. With quirks, and I never thought about this until like we started really diving into this Toga example, but you kind of have to accept the fact that like a lot of people with mutant kids have mutant quirks already, so it's not as much of a surprise for them. But you kind of have to accept the fact that no matter how similar you and your partner are, your kid might not reflect that at all. Your kid might like genuinely can easily come out and just be a completely different person, whether it's animalistic features, whether the quirk just ends up being something like decay or rewind, whatever the case may be. It's a setup to have this whole situation present itself differently and be something you are not prepared for. Like you cannot be somebody's parent in this situation and not be prepared to deal with some shit. Like you have to be more prepared than you like right now. If you have a child, you need to be worried about like schooling eventually. You have to understand that there's a chance that you might have to take off work because your kid is sick and all these other things. But if you add in this layer of your kid is going to have some kind of superpower, something that impacts their personality, something that may cause them to have something that you're just not prepared for. It's kind of like the opposite of the Aoyama situation. They took for granted the idea of having a child with a quirk, having a child with a quirk, so much so that they were like, oh no, our kid isn't normal. Our kid is quirkless. We got to do something about that. We're rich. We're going to go buy a quirk for the kid. So you kind of have these situations where these parents are just completely ill-equipped mentally for what they need to do with their child. And if you're not prepared to take that risk or have to take on those responsibilities as an adult and as somebody who's going to be a parent and my hero, you really shouldn't be having kids. And I think because we've talked about how deliberate Endeavor has been in having children in the My Hero series and in the story, we've never actually gotten to talk about how oopsie babies are a way bigger consequence. Like in My Hero than they are in our world currently. Like,
Yes,
even
for sure.
Wait, what were we talking about?
like, because
Sorry,
like,
came back.
no, you're good, Thomas. Because like the idea of having a kid, like, okay, in the modern world, people will have one night stands, have a kid, and be like, "Shit, I'm not prepared for this," and they can kind of deal with it, right? Like, but in the My Hero world, you might not even like if you're doing the same culture, which I kind of think that hookup culture might have died in My Hero's verse because like I can't imagine rolling the lottery
No,
that
no, no,
hard.
no,
Like,
no, 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 no. That,
like rolling
no,
like
no,
rolling
no.
the dice
Forget,
and like
forget.
hit,
No,
like
no,
nah,
forget
bro. That's
One night
scary.
stands will lead to like
the
something bad happening.
the hook culture here in West Europe would died out. Things like accidents in Africa of countries with not a high education might. So you might have. I cannot say what the chaos that they had in the first what do we call it? Either in the first period of the the first period of the quirks would have been catastrophical. I would be really destructive even because the way that people can go right left sometimes and stuff, the hook culture is kind of different also.
Yep.
It's not the same as here, but yeah, it would have the kids from there would have been, because we have a concept here in Africa, in my country, we call them the street kids are seen as sorcerers already here. You know, a sorcerers, bad lucks, so they grew up on the streets, they become thieves and everything. Imagine that kind of COVID courts. Allee. Already just this already, and in my mind it's already like just picking up with this scary as hell. So yeah.
If I can point to like the situation with Toga, specifically like her parents, you often see this happening with my parents right now when, for example, like I used to help out in my school, like I used to help at the reception or I used to talk to parents, and oftentimes you see parents treating their children who have either special needs or they have like anxiety, and they treat them like they're not people, and they treat them as like, okay, I'm a parent now, I might as well just be a parent, not love my children, put them to school and get them out of my life. I've seen this so many times with Toga's parents specifically. It's the most extreme case, and I feel like the way Hori handled this backstory, this like flashback, whether this is like you have their mindset, but it's more like exaggerated because it's how Toga sees it, but how she felt is still valid because you see this all the time with parents. And I'm pretty sure you were talking about how parents will have children and not know what to do. I didn't know what was the conversation that I joined in on.
Oh yeah, it was a byproduct of what the position Toga's parents were in.
Mm-hmm.
They obviously weren't mentally prepared for their quit, and that's what I was kind of saying is that like in My Hero, in a society like somebody else did a really good job comparing it to Fishmen, because in One Piece they explained Fishman lineage. For those of you who don't read One Piece or you haven't gotten to the part of Fisherman Island,
I remember that one.
This isn't some major spoiler, but it's worth going over in the specific example. In the Fisherman Island, it's explained that when two fishmen come together and they have a kid, just because, let's say, they're a bull shark fishman and a bull shark fish woman, it does not mean that they'll have a bull shark fish kid. The way fishman DNA is passed down is it can pull from any of the previous generations. I think they said in any of the previous generations. They might have capped it around like great grandparents or something like that. But basically, you go back multiple generations and you're pulling from that lottery. Whereas in My Hero, you're still largely pulling from your parents, of course, and you're still kind of pulling from your grandparents. But your quirk is typically a combination of your parents' quirks or one or the other. And then occasionally you get full-blown deviants. So use it like, so you kind of have to use that fishman logic, but it's almost like you're amping up the quirks no matter what through generations. So even if you get something that's similar to your grandpa's quirk, you're probably getting your grandpa's quirk that's cracked up to function in ways your grandpa couldn't have imagined using it 50 years ago or something like that. So it's just one of those things that as we move through society, if you're going to be a parent in My Heroes universe, you just need to accept the fact that you're not ready, no matter how ready you think you are.
Yeah.
And it's very
Facts.
clear that Toga's parents thought it was going to be simple, straightforward. And that's kind of why I think she was a deviant, because they clearly don't have quirks that make them consume
I was about to
blood.
mention,
They could not have had quirks that make them consume blood or actively desire
because they would
consume
know
blood.
how to handle Toga.
Exactly. They would have
Yeah.
had some kind of frame of reference to work with their child on how they deal with it through their day to day and how they make it work.
Mhm.
But
So we also, so we can deduce of this that they didn't have quirks that could lead to that type of quirk.
they could have had a transformation quirk, but they
The
definitely
blood
didn't have
was a
anything
different
blood.
element.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
they definitely didn't have anything dealing with other people's blood.
Yeah, because the blood addiction is more like an addiction quirk too. So like
Mhm.
more. So
Someone said in the chat, NG was out here
Yeah.
rerolling the
Yeah.
quirk gotcha. But my best comparison to that, because you brought up Fishman, having a Fishman child is basically rolling the gotcha. I feel like that's the better way to describe what a Fishman is.
So as someone
Hey, man,
who
you
is
play-
unfamiliar,
You play the game of Quirk RNG.
Legit.
Got to deal with what you get.
so as someone who's like largely unfamiliar with One Piece, is it possible for two fishmen to have a non-fishman child, or is it always
No, they'll still have a fisherman child.
Yeah,
Okay.
they'll-
It's
not like
Well-
pop out the like a
okay.
human.
Hold on,
Hmm.
because there is a character that is introduced named Cavendish. Cavendish is a half human, half bullfighting fisherman child.
Mhm.
really?
Yes.
Cavendish? Oh, you mean somebody else?
No, sorry, not Cavendish.
That's what I was. I know the game with the bull with the
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
Cavendish. It's the one who wears the
Yeah.
stilettos.
And the high
who's your
heels,
boy.
yeah. In the high heels.
Oh, do you mean Dellinger?
Dellinger. Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
Dellinger? Oh, that's how you pronounce it. Okay, that's good enough.
Dellinger. I don't know, but Dellinger. Sorry. Way too many characters in One Piece.
Yeah.
But they're
Fully understandable.
they're introduced in the same arc, so at least I had that right.
And they're almost fought in the same place, so I fully understood what.
So
yeah.
that character, I guess you could argue, if Dellinger reproduced with the fish person, that down the line, I guess it could be possible for them to have a human child, because that would have been entered into the genetic lottery of the fishman species.
Yeah, true.
But we don't have proof of that. So we need somebody from the
I mean,
past.
don't we
But I
have
think-
Sappy?
But
To
don't
pull
you
from
think
as
that
well.
the human genes are not are recessive?
Oh yeah, did they say that?
I think so that the fishman DNA might be dominant, but when you see the face of Dillinger, he looks like more like a human child than something else. Just when you see his teeth and you understand that he has horns too. Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
like
so-
I found on the wiki there are about 2+ characters who are half human. You have Sappy, Dellinger, Charlotte the Chas, and Big Pam, who are like they are human like. So yeah, I would guess like human would be the dominant trait.
Yeah.
Because wasn't Dellinger's like he had like the teeth of a fishman?
Yeah, because as far as I know, Dellinger is the child of so yeah,
but
a
because when
fighting
you,
fishman. So yeah.
because when you talk about being dominant, it means that that the next child will have more human traits. You know what I mean? So when you think like that's what I'm telling. That's why I was asking if Dillinger meets a human wife, does the child gets a lot of does he have the chance to become like half fishmen? Like, does he have the exchange of a lot of fishmen traits or not? That's how I saw it. Because that's why I was thinking to myself if they were dominant or not. But yeah.
And yes, Big Mom is fully human.
Sadly.
She's just big.
She's just big.
Hence the name, yes.
Oh man, no.
Like it's just the big lady.
Because Jack is also half what do you call it again? Fishman though.
Yeah,
Is
I
he
thought
half
Let me see.
Is he half? He's also half human, or is he half? I don't know, something else.
So I think the wiki actually might need to be updated because they did cover that Jack is part fishman at least.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of details in One Piece though, so it's like
yeah. No, Jack is listed as a full fisherman.
A full. Okay, he's a full fisherman.
I don't think he's a full fisherman though.
He doesn't. He doesn't look like it.
Also, Anarchy. Big Mom isn't fully human. It was confirmed. She's 40% human, 60% disappointment.
Wow.
oh
Here
jeez.
I
have a lot of
abominations.
listen. I have stuff about One Piece. Like,
What does that make
not
her? What does that make her 110 children?
Yes, I guess so. They would be they're all good.
Okay.
It's only Big Mom. Shout out Oda. Goda.
Oh man, that man! It's still today. When you think about it, how does he have the imagination that a woman that big has more than 110 children, and she's still in her 60s, man. She's 60, she still had children. Oh man, that's too much, bro. I don't know which stunt that I thought that might be the good idea to tell her. I really don't know.
I did also have this. It was fire.
I don't know. The idea of Jack allegedly being a full-blown fisherman and having 0 fishman karate skills is
Honestly fitting.
Man, I really don't.
Look,
Jack was so much disappointment too. Man.
So okay, time out. Now I gotta defend Jack. Now I gotta
No,
defend
Jack's cool.
I really like
Cool design.
The trap that the design wise, the trap that he was in the beginning. Just like I was expecting something from him in Wano, you know what I mean? And then what you get is first he gets beaten by the samurai, then he gets beaten by Inuarashi and Nekomamushi. Bro,
Okay,
that
hold
just
on.
keeps on outstacking, man.
So I have the very controversial stance that Jack was the best / most successful commander. He was the only one who did not hurt his own allies. King hurt his subordinates. Queen lashed out at his subordinates. Jack fought alongside and respected his subordinates. If you think back to Zoe, even when he gassed Zoe, he gave them mass. So Jack was the best leader of the 3 commanders. In addition to that, Jack ran up on Fujitora, Suru, Sengoku, and I can't remember who else it was there, and lived. He didn't successfully save Dofi, but he survived an encounter with an admiral, a former fleet admiral, and I think 2 vice admirals. And lived. He got smacked by Zunisha and lived. Yes, he lost to the Mink army, but he specifically lost to the Mink army under a full moon, got back up, and then went and fought Inuarashi, won, and then the only reason he ended up losing is because the sky split, letting him go transform and get the final blow on him. Queen and King went down after their first fight and never got back up. And Jack beat King to the top floor, and he doesn't even have a fucking flying fruit.
True. Actually, you're right. I'll take back the slander. I
Jack
apologize.
is hands down the best commander. People saw Queen and King make fun of him and just fucking all media like reading just went out the window. Like he
Well,
just became.
I mean, like I think something you have to remember is like One Piece power levels are like there is a huge range of them. It's like honestly even more so than a lot of other series. Like you have so many tiers of pirates. It's like and it's not explicitly organized, but like you can just kind of tell as you go through the story. It's like okay, this person's in this level, and then this person is on this level, this level, and so it's not like so to like king and queen who are who have been shown to be kind of arrogant in their own right. So like their assessment of other people is going to be somewhat skewed. So I don't think you can take the word of characters too religiously. You do have to kind of step back and look at the overall picture, right? Like let's look at Buggy. You know, like everybody makes fun of Buggy, and like he is kind of pathetic, right? But he's actually one of the best pirates in the series because regardless of whether you think, regardless of like his, you know, like not being able to beat people in a straight up fight, his quirk makes him indestructible, and he still gets to the top somehow. Like you don't do that unless you've got genuine, like you've got genuine skills of some kind. Fake it until you make it, right? So
Look, I'm gonna be honest. All Buggy needs is to start putting his muggy balls in a sniper's rifle, and no military is actually gonna get to approach him. Because if you just have a bunch, because like think about that, the muggy ball is supposed to be stronger than the buggy ball, and the muggy ball is the size of a bullet. Also, he invented the muggy ball in prison. Like
This guy is a genius.
he's one of the best gadgeteers in the series.
I mean, you don't even have to look at like his creativity and you know what he's able to create. Buggy may be goofy at times, but he is intimidating, and people downplay him all the time in the community, and it makes no sense because this is the same guy who made it to where he is currently in the One Piece world.
Okay.
Part of it is because Buggy
Buggy is
downplays
him.
himself. Buggy downplays himself because when you see how he perceived Shanks, you know that means that Buggy has kind of been holding himself back mentally. And we know how hockey works, that strength of will. I would not be surprised if the next time we see Buggy after he just goes, fuck it, I'm going to be the Pirate King, he all of a sudden has a bunch of hockey abilities because he's finally tapped into that shit. And you know what? You know what? We already have an established precedent in the story for it too. You know who that established precedent is? Anybody want to say it for me?
What? Goldie Roger or
Zoro.
Zoro?
When Zoro was like, I'm going to be the best swordsman. I'm going to do what it takes. I'm going to fight for my dream and keep my vow. That was when his Conqueror's hockey was finally able to actually go bird.
Oh, okay.
And
I mean,
so,
I've been pushing Conqueror Buggy for a while.
that it would be pretty sick. And it's like
no, the thing that he can
still
assemble
got
people. The thing that
we've still got a fair bit of One Piece. Yeah, we still got a fair bit of One Piece left. How many of you are actually caught up? Because I'm lagging behind about.
I'm like 2 chapters behind.
I stay
I'm caught up. I'm
Look, man, as somebody who has trashed, Wano for like 2-3 years, I love this arc we're in.
Oh well, I'm the same. Like I hated Wano. Like there were great parts of Wano, but the entire arc is just not the best. But this arc finally is great.
I know everybody throws up. It's like, oh well, it's like pre-time skip One Piece again. And it's like,
no, it's not.
That's not really the case, though. It's like it's just all of these things that he's done for literally over 25 years are now all coming together. So yes, this is the strongest he's been in a long time. Long time.
Oh yeah, he puts he seeded seeds through the whole story, like you said, and we are just literally right now recollecting the fruits of it. That's just what's happening right now. Like the thing with Alabasta, everything just keep wrapping up. And I love it. This story right now is One Piece. The last few weeks was the thing that was the most looking to. Even My Hero Academia couldn't, because the way that Horikoshi was just dropping chapter after chapter, that you're thinking yourself, okay, he keeps giving more and more and more. So I can't wait to see what is the next chapter.
God, I wish they'd put Horikoshi on Oda's schedule at the very least. Although it kind of, although now that I think about it, it kind of seems like he unofficially kind of is, because he'll do like 2-3 chapters at most, not very long, and then he has to rest. So yeah,
he has earned the grade to do that. He has put a
but I
long
mean,
enough.
yeah, it's just tough, you know. It's like look, I know everybody kind of like thinks like, oh, Horikoshi, take a break. The bigger problem here is Jump, because not only could they force him to take a break, but they still choose not to really pull that card on him. They have constructed the environment that debilitates and severely impacts all these amazing artists and storytellers. Like, they've created that environment where they feel pressured and they have to do week after week of grueling, like well above the norm. Like, you know how much time it takes to like draw a chapter? It's like, in Horikoshi's style, he prefers to do it like all in one go. So he'll spend like 2-3 days locked up in the studio just drawing stuff nonstop. And then he leaves like the rest of his week for a break. But that's like, think about doing that for 9 years. That would absolutely destroy your body. As like,
I'm gonna be honest, right? So I agree with you, Volk, 100% that Jump is a big factor. Like, they're at the point where they are improving with, you know, their mindset on our mangaka are people. But I feel like one of Hori's biggest like enemies, his biggest like obstacle is himself. It's his mind,
absolutely,
how he feels, and it doesn't help. And I mentioned this in chat, but I don't think I mentioned this in call. I feel like one thing he needs is someone to be right next to him, giving him like what he needs to be told, because from what we can tell, he doesn't have anyone. He lives alone.
Yeah,
and
like
it's just
Tyler
sad.
pointed out. Like Tyler pointed out, this is why Ruri Dragon is on hiatus. It's just this culture. It's like, it's crazy.
Also, I read the first 6 chapters of Ruri Dragon, and I was like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, but it's still interesting. And it's just been gone. And I'm like, man.
And they still listed as part of the lineup too. And like, even people in Japan are like, because they're not going to axe it. It sold a crap ton. Like, it sold a lot. So they're not going to axe it. But it's like, everybody's like, where is this thing?
Like, dude is just gone.
Like, does he need to move to like one of the monthly publications? Honestly, I think it's not even health. It's kind of a mental thing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's health as well, but not the same as physical. Because, like, I made this tweet a couple days ago where I don't think people really appreciate the stresses of serialized storytelling, especially for manga, because you are working around the clock, and like anybody who's like ever written something you understand what this is like. You will have your good days, you will have your bad days. And I don't think people really appreciate that. Like, yes, you're free to criticize a chapter, but like, you got to understand, a lot of times it really is not the author's best work because they don't have a choice. Like, they got to put it out. Whatever shape or form it takes, they got to put that stuff out. Hey, whatever.
Hey, look, people are not appreciating artists. Name a more iconic duo.
Oh, you mean the whole situation with the Spider-Verse animators point towards that perfectly of a recent example, because everyone treating all the animators like, oh, they're like, this is their job, they knew what they were getting into, like tough shit. Like, no, that's not how you should be treating them.
Yeah, Amy Pascal's comment about it was
disrespectful.
It's just everything that's wrong with the industry. And what was driving me nuts was when that article first dropped, people were being like, what? Like, oh, Sony was fighting Phil Lord. They were being the problem. And I'm like, Read the article. Phil Lord was the problem. He was the problem. It was not Sony this time. It was him. It was him setting unrealistic work parameters. Because here's what he would do for those of you who haven't read it. Normally in animation, you have your storyboards and you have your meetings. You decide what you're gonna do, what you're gonna cut. Sometimes some things that are like in the middle of it being animated or almost well animated will get cut. But here's the thing with Spider-Verse. The way it operates is Phil Lord prefers them to fully animate stuff. And he would come in and he would just cut a bunch of stuff and he would basically set them back to square one. Every time. Think about that, right? How much of a toll that would take. You spend hours and hours and hours animating something, making sure it's finished. It's fully finished. It's to the quality that you would see in the final product. You present it to your boss. He's like, this is great, but now we're going to have to scrap this. I'm going to rewrite things last second. So you got to go back to it. It's just not sustainable is the problem. I love Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, two of my favorite movies ever, but that's not sustainable because it's not how you edit animation. It's not like live action where you can come in and just kind of shoot around it. Animation takes an extra amount of time.
A lot of time.
A lot of time and filming stuff, yes, but animation is like starting from square zero is even more debilitating. So, I mean, like Top Gun initially tested very poorly with, well, it tested very well with test audiences in like the 80s, but one element they didn't really like was the main romance between Tom Cruise and whoever that actress was. So they shot the movie and they added some extra scenes of them interacting just so it would feel more natural, right? It's harder to do that for animation because you're gonna have to start from square zero and storyboard and just animate it and build upon it all over again. So it's like, and that was happening all over Across the Spider-Verse. It's just not realistic. Anyway, that's my tangent.
For me, I watched Spider-Verse 2 times already. Across Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse, the first one I watched it like, I don't know how many times, because I watch it at least two times a year. That's how good I think it is. Yeah, I love the movie. The first time I feel overwhelmed. I had a great experience, but I was blown away. Yeah, that was the feeling that I had. But my thoughts were, I didn't have time to really process the movie, so I went to the second time. The second time really set it in my mind. Okay, that movie is really good. I love the characters and everything, and the work that they did. That you can have multiple versions, you can see in the theaters.
Yeah,
it's kind of crazy, even just thinking about it, because I know working on a webtoon even with my artist. I know how many times it was difficult for me sometimes when I had some scenes in my mind that he was portraying, and I told him, I don't think I didn't tell you like this. And even when we were working on the storyboard ourselves, that's why I started to learn about storyboarding, so he could understand what I was really thinking, what image I had in my mind, So I understand the work that you had to do, and I know how he learned me how it is, how animators have to do, because sometimes he was trying to do animations. I can tell you that I know how an artist is work, even just for one drawing, sometimes how long they can work. And you put the people through that after that they finish their job. It's horrible. I mean, animators, the job that they are doing is, just imagine this 24 image per second. 24 images per second. If you have to draw it by hand, most of the time, from what I understood, they really draw it. They draw it, most of them by hand, every frame, every every art in the movie is thrown by hand on the how do you call it again? Yes, on the touchscreen and stuff,
Yeah.
the digital drawing by hand. So when I heard the LA, I really hope that they get the respect that they deserve, because LA, you can even if you're the boss and about these situations, that you can treat people that work 5 years on a movie, on the first one, it broke the mold. They work again 5 years on the second one.
This is gonna be an important decade, man, because like look, the past 10, 12 years have been anime becoming really mainstream. It was on the way before, before that, but really in the past decade it's exploded.
Yes, for sure.
Yes, so like creative industries around the world are going to have to ask themselves, how are we going to maintain this demand, maintain the output for this demand? Because like here's the thing. Right now the industry is, especially anime, this is all corners of animation, but especially anime, it is below average pay. Exploit people below average pay, exploit their love for animation, and get things done on a lower budget. And like here's the thing. The thing you need to understand about like the suits who oversee all this stuff, all the money and whatnot. Yes, there's nuance. Yes, there's other things to consider. Yes, they're trained in certain things that we aren't most of the time. But they look at short-term profit first and foremost. They don't really think about long-term profit. Look at Zaslav over at Warner Brothers, selling off $500 million of the company's media library just to put a small dent into the debt and probably partially fund Superman Legacy. That will work in the very short term. That's not going to work in the long term. That's going to work against them. Right now, we're at a point with inflation, capitalism, where everything has just been building and building, and it's at a breaking point. So either we do a really hard reset, and that's going to be very ugly, I guarantee you, around the world, or I'm not sure if we'll ever achieve this, but we implement good standards, no overworking. And yes, that will have an impact on the production line in the short term, but in the long term, I guarantee you pay them well, you have good hours, you increase your productivity by a ton. You're not getting your best work out of people who are exhausted and angry with their jobs. You make people happy, you're gonna get your best work out of them. It's that simple. But people don't get that because again, they only see short-term profits. And it's so easy to exploit people for that short-term goal, that short-term gain. It's just a shame.
Yep. All right. We've officially hit we talk about lots of things that aren't the chapter section of the story on the screen. So I think what we'll do here is start going around the horn, get the final thoughts. Let's start with Joseph.
All right. This was it was a packed chapter. I'm really excited to see what happens next. Like, it's very impressive that Twice was able to smoke while wearing his mask.
Never smoked a cigarette.
So yeah, this was a really good packed chapter, and really can't wait for next one. And I'm glad that that Hori's got a scheduled break this time instead of unexpected one. That's it.
All right, Thomas.
Hello. I love the chapter. Genuinely, I said in the server, I said in multiple, that like out of all the League members, I love exploring Toga the most because her arc her dynamic with Uraraka, just like Shigaraki and Deku, tie into the story perfectly. And Toga is like that one character that gets a lot of hate because obviously you have the shonen fans who view female characters as useless, or they're not as cool as the male characters. And it's a shame, but like Hori really highlights how amazing his cast is through this backstory. And I agree with some people where they feel like they wanted this before, like an MVA 2. I hate that so much, but I get it. But I love this chapter. I love Uraraka. Like I want to know what she's going to do next chapter, because people are saying she's going to die. She's not going to die. Relax. We've seen worse with these characters. But I'm excited for next week. So yeah, that's all I want to say. Have a great day, everyone, and I'm out.
All right. And let's go with Ponzu.
Hey people, thank you for having me. First thing to do, don't forget to like the video. And yeah, this chapter, it was a good chapter. I really loved I like Toga as a character because she has so much stuff in her as a character. My question, one of the questions I would ask to Horikoshi, how does he find a way to mix so many concepts into one character? You know, with Toga we get the vampire stuff. We get the fact that the concept is aspect how to be normal in the society. We get so many stuff from her, and many people can recognize themselves in different stuff. Addiction, we can talk about different stuff with her, of coming out in general, and which I really like that. And the fact that, and you can feel her as a character, that how she wants to be accepted, how she wants to also live her own life without being herself, because we always struggle to accept ourselves as person too, and living and be like we are. You know, we always put that mask on. So I love this chapter, how deep it went, and I can't wait to see more. And I really like the direction of Uraraka as a character, because this chapter is the follow-up of her. I will say now we can see that she sees it as a mistake. The way that she talked to Toga when she came to her to ask for help, and now she has to accept. She accepted the fact that she didn't act the right way back then when at the end of the first part of the war, and now she tried to try to make her excuses and really want to open herself to have a kind of to understand Toga, and it's what a hero should do. Try, and I really love that about her character right now. I can't wait to see more. And yeah, next week do we have a chapter next week or no?
We're on break.
Sure. No, we're on break.
Oh, you're on break? Okay, sure. So next time then. Thank you for having me, and yeah, like the video. Bye.
Volk.
I feel like I spent like 70% of my time talking about things that weren't MHA this stream, so sorry about that. But
You're good. You're good.
this was a fantastic chapter, honestly. Like what I said earlier, it's like I think the Toga Choco chapters this arc were good, but they didn't really hit me like I think some of the others did. And I was waiting to see if like it would really deliver, and it did. This was a fantastic chapter. I'm not too worried about a Choco getting stabbed, because like I mean, this is MHA, man. These people shrug that off all the time. So and you know, honestly, it's like with everybody else getting cut up, it would feel kind of backhanded in a way if she didn't, like if she was kind of spared that, you know, like this is her ultimate fight. This is the climax of her character arc. So yeah, she's gonna have to suffer for it a little bit, but I believe in my girl. She's gonna pull through. Toga is a fantastic villain. Her breakdown this chapter was just riveting. It's like it was something like a car crash. You couldn't tear yourself away from it. And the way that this builds off, the idea of like villains and heroes, like their dynamic, Hawks and Twice, and that we were talking about. A lot of that I think is coming to a head here. And Hawks is still nearby. So I think there could be some moment of maybe not catharsis, because it's kind of like it was kind of an ugly situation all the way around with what happened with Twice. So I think it could be like that little sentence at the end of it, like at the end of it all, is like, and it just kind of says everything about that part of the story, And honestly, this was a shorter chapter, but I think it flowed very well. Last week was
Way
definitely
too short.
yeah. Last week was very like it was very blatantly like Horikoshi was like, I can't finish this, so he just like stopped right in the middle of it. And this is like the second half of that chapter, albeit extended a little bit to be 13 pages. I'm not sure if Toga is even going to choose a villain name next week. But I really hope she does, because like when you think about it, she is the only villain without like a kind of title, like even Shigaraki is like, that's not his real name, right? Tomura Shigaraki is not Tenko Shinra. Tomura Shigaraki is his villain name. And you could argue that he's going to be known as the superior all for one at the end of all this, which would be really cool as well. Is there anything else?
I don't think so. I think you covered everything.
Great chapter.
Yep. That's the main thing that I'm interested in. I'm like, just like when Bakugo died, I wasn't one of those people who was like sold on it. So I'm obviously not gonna sit here and try to like spend a bunch of time talking about Ochaku getting stabbed. Could it happen? Sure, but I mean, like, we'll wait and see. I did like the kind of like the horror leans of seeing some of the hero girls be villainous in this arc or in this chapter or whatever, even though evil Jiro kind of looks like Deku a little bit in her eye shape. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Koga's villain name is going to be if we get it. I like the fact that we had Dobby, we had Twice, we've had Spitter, we've had Mr. Compress. It's kind of been sitting there the whole time that she was the only one who wasn't a complete villain. And I think that we've talked about how this arc has been for a lot of the villain side about their resolve and where they stand, and like proving that they stand where they stand, especially starting with the loss of Twice and the convictions they carry. So for Toga, if it was as simple as Otaku gets to talk to her and she immediately switches over, it would be in direct contradiction to everything else we've seen out of the League of Villains. And this arc is kind of summarizing why all of these characters are tragic, but why they are actually villains. So us getting Toga's conviction here after everything she's been through is kind of the perfect time for it. And I'm glad that we're getting to this juncture of the story. Thank you to everybody for coming through. I'm going to go ahead and wrap the stream here. Thanks once again to everybody who came in and watched, and y'all have a great day.
Of course.
The chat told me to take next Sunday off. I will oblige.
Yes,
The
please
chat
do.
told me.
Spend time with your daughter.
I mean, she sits in my jacket half streams anyway, but
Well, spend it
Band
without-
time. Yeah.
Spend it without a bunch of dudes yelling on your computer.